goal of mine is to go back to my roots and find the truths. Take the good and leave the bad. And it's the idea of doing for the sake of doing, that the doing itself is the reward and is the diploma and is the grade. And if that's the case, everything you need will come as you need it. And all of the great spiritual teachers taught this. And it's not a monopoly of any one religion. So this is something that I wanted to explore. And when I was thinking about this speech, I was thinking, I grabbed a dictionary. Sometimes I like to just look at the dictionary. It's almost like there's amazing spiritual truth that you can find just looking at the dictionary. And I decided to look up the word incentive. And we're always talking about incentive in our culture. And what is incentive? The root of incentive, Middle English, is from the late Latin incentivum, from neuter offensiveness, which means stimulating, and from Latin, earlier Latin, it's setting the tune, from incentus, from incenere, which means to play a tune, in canere, to sing. And I've been thinking a lot about what is language, what is money, what are diplomas, what are grades. They're all symbols. And they're symbols of something deeper. And language is a symbol of something else. Like when we talk, we're talking about something in the past or in the future. But what would happen if we talked and what we said meant exactly what it is? And I listen to birds singing, and they're speaking what is. They're not symbolizing anything else. They're speaking exactly what's in their heart. It comes completely from the present, and it's singing. And I feel like that is the purest, truest language. And this is our incentive. It has to be our incentive if we're to be true. Our incentive must be intrinsic, must come from inside. But our culture runs on incentive. It's always away. It's always in the future. Money, grades, diplomas. These things are okay if they symbolize what we've gained, but they become the end rather than just merely symbols. They're illusions. And I thought about something that happens in religions all over the world, and we see it very clearly with what happened with Christianity. Is the very first words of Jesus recorded in the Gospels, in the Bible, are the kingdom of heaven is within you, or the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And he also said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And this has become, instead of something within, it's become an incentive in the future or way out in space. We think of heaven as some reward that's going to come later. The means and the end have become separated. Instead of the means and the end are one. The reward is in the doing. Heaven is within, and heaven is the doing. And this must be our incentive. When our incentive becomes something other, then it becomes ulterior motivation. And I looked up ulterior, and this is really interesting, in the Webster's Dictionary. Lying beyond, or on the farther side, later, subsequent, or future, further, more remote, especially beyond what is expressed, implied, or evident, undisclosed. And it's from the Latin ulter, which means beyond or farther. And this is what happens. Our rewards are always in the future, and they never come. We're always working for something in the future, and our reward is not in doing. We're sacrificing the present for the future. And the best investment for the future is to work completely in the present, and the reward must be in doing. The end and the means must be one. The end cannot justify the means. And this is how I feel, this is what's happened in our capitalist system. Naturally, it's been the mentality of our civilization since it began thousands of years ago. We're sacrificing our health, we're sacrificing our environment, we're sacrificing each other. Even our children, we're sacrificing them to meaningless wars. For what? For some future profit. And this comes back to our religious mentality. We're sacrificing our lives on earth, love for each other, for some reward in some fictitious heaven way up in space and future in time. And our saviors are in the past instead of in the present within. And this was one of the reasons why I got rid of my money and my IDs and my diploma. Not that those things are bad, but those things become our identity. Instead of our identity is ourself, and our motivation is ourself. And think about the word motivation too. Motivation means what moves you. And what moves you can be something from without, extrinsic, or from within, intrinsic. If you look at leaves blowing in the wind, they're blowing, they're moving, but are they alive? They're dead leaves and they're blowing. It's pretty and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're dead. They're not being moved from within. They're not being moved by a life force within. And you look at our culture, what is moving us? Is it outward goals, extrinsic, outside of ourselves, or is it within? Is our goal and our reward and our identity outside of ourselves, or is it within? And this is something that life can be very discouraging after you graduate. It's very exciting right now. You're going out into the great unknown. But just remember, if you want to find your power, find it within. And society is constantly going to try to blow wind on you and say, this is where your movement is, this is where your motivation is. Your motivation is in greater status, greater money, possessions, and it'll take your focus off of what's within you, your true motivation. And that's life. Life is motivated from within. Mechanics and death is motivated from without. And our society is running on mechanics and death. Just look around. We're destroying the very environment we're dependent upon. All these principles are one principle, if you really meditate on it. And these are things that our heart tells us, but I was excited to find that